Your neighbor finished his renovation in April. You watched the crew pack up from your driveway. The last truck pulling out on a Thursday morning, leaving behind a kitchen that cost $91,000 and a master bath with heated floors. Derek came over that weekend, coffee in hand, asked if you wanted the tour. You said sure. You walked through. You said it looked great. You meant it. Then you drove to work in a 2011 Honda Accord with 138,000 miles on it, parked in the same spot you always park, and sat at your desk thinking about a number that had nothing to do with Derek's kitchen. The house you live in is 1,640 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, a garage that sticks a little in winter, built in 2001. You bought it in 2009 for $178, zero when the market was still bleeding out from the crisis, and nobody wanted to buy anything. Your realtor called it a deal. Your parents called it practical. Your college roommate, who was renting a loft in Nashville at the time, called it depressing. You called it home, and then you stayed. You were 28 when you signed the papers. Entry-level project coordinator, $51,000 a year, $14,200 in savings, a credit score of 712 that your loan officer described as workable. The mortgage came out to $147 a month. Principal, interest, taxes, insurance. You could afford it. Barely, the first year. Comfortably by year 3. The neighborhood wasn't bad. It wasn't impressive either. Cul-de-sac in a suburb outside Cincinnati. Mature trees. A school district people chose deliberately. The kind of block where people put out American flags on the 4th of July and wave at each other across the lawn without actually knowing much about each other's lives. Derek bought his place 2 doors down the same year. Same price range, same situation. You both moved in that fall. You became the kind of neighbors who talk about property taxes and whether the HOA would finally repave the back alley. Here is where your stories diverged. Derek refinanced in 2013 to pull out equity for a boat. Sold the house in 2015 and bought bigger. $267,000. New subdivision, 20 minutes further from the city. Sold that one in 2019 and bought again. $341,000. Better school district, fresh sod, a 3-car garage he didn't need. Every move made sense. Every move had a reason. Every move reset the clock. You did not move. You did not refinance to buy a boat. You didn't even buy a boat. What you did was considerably less interesting to talk about at neighborhood cookouts. Year 4, you got a raise, $64,000. The logical thing, the thing everyone around you seemed to be doing, was to use that breathing room to breathe differently. New car, bigger place. The vacation to Europe you'd been putting off. Your coworker Marcus bought a house that year with 4 bedrooms and a finished basement and a payment that was $600 more per month than yours. He explained it was an investment. He wasn't wrong. He just didn't account for the cost of the transaction. You looked at the mortgage statement instead. By year 4, your balance had dropped from $163,800 to $148,200. The drop felt small. You knew it wasn't. What most people don't understand about a 30-year mortgage is that the first decade, you're mostly paying interest. The bank gets its cut first. But somewhere around year 7, 8, 9, the math starts to tilt. Principal payments begin to overtake interest. Equity starts building faster than it feels like it should. It doesn't announce itself. It just quietly accumulates the way rust works in reverse. You also understood something about transaction costs that Derek and Marcus seemed to treat as rounding errors. Selling a home means agent commissions, typically 5 to 6%. Closing costs on the new purchase, another 2 to 3. Moving expenses. New furniture to fill rooms the old furniture doesn't fit. When Derek sold in 2015 and bought bigger, the friction of that move ate roughly $28 in pure transactional loss before he made a single mortgage payment on the new place. He didn't think about it that way. Most people don't. You thought about it exactly that way. 2018. You're making $79,000. The house looks the same from the outside. The siding needs painting. You know this, you're getting to it. A couple from the new development, a mile over, come through the neighborhood for a walk, and you catch them glancing at your place, the way people glance at things they're trying not to judge. You notice. You don't say anything. Inside, the original kitchen, the laminate countertops you've lived with for 9 years. The carpet in the guest room that should probably be replaced. Everything functional. Nothing impressive. What the couple walking by cannot see. Your mortgage balance is $121,400. Zillow has your house at $241,000. You have $119. $600 in equity, not counting the $47,000 in your brokerage account and the maxed Roth IRA you've been feeding since year 2. The gap between what your life looks like from the outside and what it actually is has been widening for years. You have let it widen, deliberately, without announcing it to anyone. This is the part that's hard to explain to people who haven't done it. It's not about deprivation. You went to Portugal in 2016. You replaced the HVAC when it died in 2017 and didn't complain about it. You bought a good mattress and decent whiskey and a road bike you actually ride. What you did not do was upgrade your life every time your income grew. You let the gap grow. And the gap, it turns out, is everything. 2020, March. The world stops. Home values do not stop. By the end of 2021, your house, the one with the laminate countertops and the slightly sticky garage door, is worth $312,000. You have not touched the principal. You have not refinanced. You have made no brilliant moves. You just didn't leave. Marcus calls you that November. He bought his house in 2014 for $289,000. Sold in 2017, bought again for $334,000. Mortgage payment jumped. He's fine, he says. But fine has a tension in it now that didn't used to be there. Derek's renovation is the $91,000 kitchen you already know about. He pulled a HELOC to fund it. His equity position, which should have compounded for 11 years, has been repeatedly tapped, reset, borrowed against, and spent on things that depreciate. The heated bathroom floors are beautiful. They do not build wealth. You don't say any of this. You say the kitchen looks great. You mean it. 2023. You open a HELOC of your own. Not for renovation. For a duplex 4 miles away, a 1970s brick building, 2 units, both rented, asking $187,500. You put $60,000 down. Your mortgage on the original house is $97,800. The duplex throws off $2, $100 a month in rent against a $940 mortgage payment. You net roughly $14,000 a year before maintenance and taxes. This is when something shifts, not in the numbers, in other people's perception of the numbers. Your neighbor on the other side, a woman named Carla, who teaches middle school and has lived on the block longer than anyone, stops you in the driveway one afternoon. She's heard about the duplex, the way news travels in a cul-de-sac. She looks at you differently than she did before, not admiring, exactly, more like recalibrating. Like she'd filed you in a folder labeled something else and now has to move the folder. I didn't know you were doing all that, she says. You weren't hiding it. You just weren't performing it. There's a comment left on videos like the one that might tell your story. It says, people stop the pity and start hating you, like you cheated somehow or got lucky. You understand what that commenter means. There's a moment when the quiet life stops reading as limitation and starts reading as strategy, and some people don't like what that implies about the choices they made. You don't need them to like it. You never did. 2024, 15 years in. The house is worth $389,000 on a bad week. Your mortgage balance is $61,200. Equity, $327,800. The duplex has appreciated to approximately $241,000 with $127,000 still owed. Another $114,000 in equity. Combined, $441,800 in real estate equity. The brokerage account is at $183,000. The Roth IRA at max contributions since 2011 is sitting at $214,000. You did not start a company. You did not inherit anything. You did not flip houses or learn to code or move to a lower cost of living state. You stayed in a house that needed painting and said no to things that reset the clock and let the math do what math does when you leave it alone long. Derek's house is worth more than yours. What he won't tell you, because he doesn't track it, is his net equity position after 15 years of transactions. The boats, the moves, the HELOCs, the resets. His number and your number are not close. Marcus is fine. He's always been fine. Fine has never been the goal. That Tuesday in April, after the renovation tour, after you drove home in the Accord, after you sat at your desk thinking about the number, you pulled up your accounts. Not for the first time. But it never gets entirely ordinary. $441, $800 in real estate equity, $397,000 in investment accounts. A mortgage you'll pay off in 6 years. A duplex that covers its own costs and then some. You close the laptop. You don't tell anyone. Not because it's a secret, because it doesn't need an audience. The race ended a long time ago, on the day you realized you weren't running it for anyone who was watching. That evening, you sit on the back porch. Same house. Same porch. The siding still needs painting. You get around to it eventually. The Honda is in the garage. Your phone buzzes. An agent you know, sending a listing. 4 bedrooms, new construction, 2 miles away. Good school district, good bones. The kind of house you could easily afford now. You set the phone down. The thing about staying is that most people can't. Not because they lack the money, because they can't tolerate the feeling of standing still while everyone else appears to be moving. The pressure to upgrade is social before it is financial. The neighbors, the colleagues, the realtor who calls with listings you didn't ask for. They are all running a game that does not require your participation. You figured that out somewhere around year 5. You've been living quietly off that realization ever since. The house is 1,640 square feet. It was cheap in 2009. It is not cheap now. It never was.